you bring up Armageddon, right? The noprep scene has just exploded. Okay, we touched on it a little bit when we were talking about all the streetcar racing that Larry and I have done together. So let's dive into this a little bit. Larry, give everybody a little bit of a rundown. I'll give a little bit, but then give some people some more info on your background. Obviously, chassis builder. You've been building cars for a very long time. Larson Race Cars in Oak Grove, Missouri. You built the Chevy 2, and as you said, nobody really expected it to go as quick as it has. When it got rebuilt and turned into the silver and gray car instead of the pink car, twin turbo big block Chevrolet, the first legitimate streetcar in the 6s. I was there with you at Streetcar Super Nationals for that, been all over the country with that car running in the low 7s and went out with a very specific purpose to run in the 6s there. Then a few years later, you and I got together and you had some ideas and I had some crazy ideas, and we built the S10 together. And the S10, a big source of controversy everywhere it's ever been. But our whole goal was to run the 5s in that car in the quarter. And we did again at Vegas and ran in the 5s. It was one of the most epic moments. I mean, building that thing was a crazy year out of our lives. But running in the 5s and doing what we did in that thing was just nuts. And honestly, as famous as you were then, everything you've done since has made you even more of a household name. I mean, tell us a little bit about what it is that got you there.
Well, it's that Chevy 2 I've had since 1988. It was a back half car. I still got video of that thing in Great Bend, Kansas. I dialed on at 1120 with a single 4-barrel 468 and a Doug Nash 5-speed in it. So it's been a huge swing through the years of what it's morphed into. But just like when I showed up, I didn't know anything about Drag Week until probably a month before it came off. And a buddy of mine come up and said, "Hey, you're going to go to this deal that starts in Kansas City." And I said, "I don't have a clue about it." So got to looking at it and I thought, well, this is perfect, because my Chevy 2 had, in the days of the late 90s with the fastest streetcar stuff, they were getting fast then, or they were fast then. I remember going to Orlando in the late 90s and watching them down there and do the 30-mile cruise, and Christensen and Moran and all the crazies, trying to drive those things. And so watching those guys was really cool, but they still weren't actual street cars. They were race cars that they forced to drive 30 miles. Right. Oh, and so with the Chevy 2, it was something, even when I first built it, it was a back half car. Shoot, I'd jump in it, drive it 250 miles to Denver to go to a NHRA division race and help, and then turn around and drive it home. And so it's always been something that was fun to drive, and I enjoy driving. So that's never changed. It's just, it got sped up and sped up and sped up. Well, when Drag Week came about, it was to the point where I wanted something that had run in the 8s at 150 on pump gas. And so I built that thing as a 1471 blown Lenco equipped piece, and it did just that. So we went there, and everybody thought I'd lost my mind and fell off my rocker, and there was no way that anybody was going to drive that crazy blown thing. And I know you and I'd met that year, and you thought I was cheating. High Rock thought I was cheating. They had Rob Canan follow me from St. Louis to Bowling Green on day 2, which I didn't realize at the time. But so that whole thing, it just went from running in the 8s to the 7s to the 6s and stereo on, and just like when we drove it down on the strip, after we ran 690s out there, just to prove a point, but it's still something that's fun to just jump in and drive somewhere.
There was a pretty rowdy race car the first year with Carl Scott. That was the one that they should have been looking at.
Well, Carl Steele, Carl was there, and Phil was there with the purple car, and there was a small block car, and that thing ran impressively well. So the plan was, well, they were giving away free nitrous that first year, and I got in an argument with Freiberger. I said, "You're not going to let the racetrack sell us gasoline, or race gas, but you're going to let Comp Cams give away free nitrous."
And which was a bullshit scenario, and the first of many, by the way.
So I just kind of said, screw this. I'm going to give you the bird. I'm going to run it on pump gas all week long. And if it goes 8 anything, I'm jumping in it. I'm hauling ass, because nobody done that. And that first year, it didn't start and stop in the same place. So it started in Kansas City, went to St. Louis, Bowling Green. Where'd we go? The
Milan?
No, North.
Where'd we go? God, now
we ended up in Martin.
Yes.
So we ended up in Martin, Michigan for the final day. And my plan was then is that if I made it all week, I was going to swap pulleys and get some gas brought in and show everybody what it'd run, make 5 runs back to back to back, and just show everybody. And it rained. We didn't think we were going to get a run, and finally got to run. And so it was pretty comical. Carl rebuilt his stuff at Bowling Green that night.
Yeah.
Finally got to run, swap pulleys, put fuel in it. Went out there, went 838, 155 or 60 or something, 165 maybe. And so then Carl and Phil went out there and burned their stuff up trying to outrun.
Yeah.
So it was just hilarious. And that's how I got to meet Brian Lones too, because remember I threw Brian in the car while we were waiting for the track to dry out, and took him out on the highway about $1.65, and he about pissed out one leg.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, and back then, that first year, nobody knew what to expect from any of the classes. So you also had like Jim in the blue truck that was doing things that nobody had heard of. And Kyle from 1320 Video, when it was him in his basement with one camera goofing off, there were like 10 people in the world that even knew who he was at that point. It just snowballed. All of that, just crazy snowball from there.
It's crazy how many people got their start. I say start, but you, Brian, Kyle, from that very first year of all that stuff going on. So it's just incredible, and because there was 41 cars that went that year. But just incredible how many people and where they're at now, looking back at it.
Well, and fast forward after you'd won several times in the Chevy 2. And we get to the point where I had the idea to build a Brogy Roadster with a big block in it and turbos, ultra lightweight because there was no rules, and go out there and it wouldn't need any of the street equipment that was required for every other car. I had said literally as I left the racetrack on the last day of the first drag week and said to Daphne, a Brogy Roadster wins this son of a bitch with no trouble. And all those years I wanted to do it. And I came to you and I said, this is what I'm thinking. And you said, I don't want to do a Brogy Roadster, but let's do something else crazy. And that's when we came up with the idea for the S10. But, the thing that people don't understand is the motivation was not just to go out there and win this thing, was it?
No, that was the whole thing, is that there was a point nobody thought, I don't remember how fast anybody had been up to that point. Gosh, I don't even remember, because I had been maybe 680s, maybe somebody had been, I don't remember. Bailey went out in 13 and ran with the fiberglass car. That was what was bringing a lot of it on, that got me fired up, was they were letting in the complete composite body cars. And so that's why we did the S10 like we did with steel roof and quarters, just to basically prove a point. So yeah, we talked about it and kind of crunched some numbers around, and both of us felt like that this thing could run in the fives if we could manage to pull it off, if we got the right people involved and all the stars aligned, which God forbid they were far from aligned that week, but we made it through, and we still ran 616 on Saturday. Yep. And
I was
so we did well. I was happy.
Me and some friends of mine, we got up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and went to Thunder Valley the first year you guys had the truck. and we saw everybody racing, and then we come up there to see the truck, and we're like, where's it at? You know? And we waited around, and like everybody's like, it's coming. And you guys roll in with like a piece of plywood and like a Honda generator on the back. And I mean, you both get out of the truck and everybody's excited. They're like, he's here, you know, and the look on you guys' face was just like, shit.